Hello, everyone, and welcome to LFC Transfer Room. And finally, European football is at Lask back at Liverpool.
Clever.
And we're only going to be happy if we end up in Dublin. End of story. Now, Doak, go anywhere.
Oh, my God.
Because we've got a preview coming up.
How do I exit?
And tonight, joining me on Kev TV is none other than Kev himself, Big Oz and Harmony. I promise I have no more of those.
Oh, my God.
Start off with you, Kev. How are you doing, sir?
I was great until that opening couple of lines by yourself. But no, I'm all right, mate. I'm good. Glad to be back on. It's Wednesday. It's the intricacies of James hosting that I'm looking forward to tonight. So I'm made up.
Big Oz, first time on together. How are you feeling? Looking forward to a bit of Thursday night football, something a little bit different coming up?
First of all, I'm happy to break the virginity with you. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Of course, I'm absolutely psyched for tonight. I mean, it's always an absolute privilege to be teamed up with Kev, who is a Liverpool journalist legend and part-time swimwear model. It's always a pleasure. Okay. Harmony, we all know, is the British Denzel. I mean, that's just rocking. And James.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll definitely take that.
Hey, listen, I thought am I wrong? Is the presser on right now?
Yeah, it's on right now. Yeah.
It is, yeah. They're not going to get any views. What a shame.
Of course not. Why would you? When you could tune into Harmony. No, Harmony, last time we were on the stream together is when Endo got announced, and I think you had a small mental breakdown live on stream.
I take it all.
Have you recovered? Are you on board with it all now? Are you in a better place?
Yes, I'm in a much better place. Great start for the team, and I'm in a much better place. And I'm just glad to be back on with you and Kev. Obviously, Dave, I've been on with you, so yeah, it's good to be back on with the guys.
Now, before we go into lineups, predictions, and stuff like that, there's a few things that have gone on. And the first one is sort of Ben Doak's got a new deal. New contract, get him tied down, get him signed, sealed, delivered, get him that future right wing spot lined up. Kev, are you happy that we've got this done? We've got it announced. It shows a nice little bit of progression for the guy as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely, for his hard work and the way he's played so far when he has played. It's a deal that settles him down. He knows where he's going to be. He's with the first team. And it's commendable for what he's done at the club already. In a small time he's been at the club, he's been great. Especially in the under-19s last year in the Champions League, the goals he was scoring. And when he stepped up into the first team, it's good to see a bit of raw talent who's willing to run at defenders and take people on. We haven't seen that for a while. So it's, he's still got to learn a few things, but I am made up. I'm over the moon. And he is a very talented lad, and I'm glad that we've got him, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, as Mew says, it's a nice reward for Doak. Paul Joyce said that as well. I don't expect him to replace Salah in the short term. I expect him to be, I expect Salah to leave at the end of the season. I think I've said that multiple times on stream. I don't expect Doak to come in and fill that void, but I anticipate that he's going to be working towards taking over that position. Is that what you think this is, Big Oz? Is this a progression contract to show, well, actually, we've got faith that you can develop into a Premier League star, and we're going to help you along that journey. We're not going to put too much pressure on you too soon.
Yeah, it's very exciting, first of all. I mean, he's electric, the guy. And if you remember back to Barcelona, the comeback, Mo was wearing the T-shirt, never give up. I think Doak should be sporting the T-shirt, have no fear, because the guy doesn't seem to have any. I mean, he just goes and goes and goes. He's got a mature head on his shoulders already, which is very, very impressive. Yes, I think it will be a transition. He deserves the contract. There's no doubt about that. He's come through the ranks. He's super exciting. You can see a first team place for him sometime in the future. He's not there yet, of course. I mean, he's had a really good entry in. I don't know. Is there a ghost? I don't know what happened there.
that
was weird, wasn't it? So yeah, he's got an exciting future. I think this is what it will be. I don't even know if he'll be ready to replace when Mo leaves, whether that be 1 year, 2 years. He's still quite young, you know what I mean? And we've seen players burst onto the scene before, and then it sort of crashes down a little bit, and there's a learning period. And I think that will probably happen with him. And if it doesn't, he's a superstar in the making. That's for sure.
Now, obviously, we've got things like the Europa League coming up, Harmony and Carabao Cup. For a 17-year-old, do you think that's enough minutes? Do you think maybe we need to send him out on loan, give him a bit more game time, give him a bit more experience? Or do you think actually spend a year in with the club, learn from Salah, take this year to learn from Salah, and then sort of fight for your place in the starting lineup, so to speak?
No, I think the Europa League, the Carabao Cup, and the FA Cup is going to be probably enough for him. I think he might get a couple of Premier League games here and there, depending on how the game is going, and if we have a massive lead, and you can just rest Salah and for the next game. So I think that will be good for him. I'm glad that he got this contract. It's good to finally tie down a great talent, just like we did with Trent, and hopefully we might get another signing, a new contract for Kwanzaa, because I believe those two guys are going to be probably like the next two projects that Jurgen Klopp is going to try to work on and try build them up to be that, to get to that Trent level. And I believe for him, even if he doesn't come in to replace Salah next season, I believe that within the next 2-3 seasons, he's going to be challenging whoever is going to be playing in that position. And all that means is just great for the team, more competition for that in that position. That means players are going to be raising their games, and he's going to be up for the challenge to outperform the guy that's probably playing ahead of him. So it's all good news for him. And if we need to, then probably next season game out on loan. But I believe this season that these games that he's going to be playing, the Europa League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, probably a couple of Premier League games, it's going to be enough for him.
I tend to agree. I think he's going to be one of those where you don't want to burn him out too soon. I think if we sent him out on loan, he'd play every game and stuff like that. And you don't want to Michael Owen someone and just have his hamstrings, turning into toffee by the time he's 24. Yeah. So controlling his development. He's 17. He's still growing, isn't he? So he can still turn into whatever he wants. But Kev, do we think he starts tomorrow, or do you think Salah's like, no, I start, you come on. I don't care what competition it is. I'm Salah. I'm breaking records. I'm here to break records.
So this is what's been wrangling with me all day, because I've been looking at that team. That's a very strong team. We're not going over there with a very strong team just to play half-heartedly. I think we're going to start strong. I've got Salah starting tomorrow. And I think it's because if you look at the team, we've got momentum. And we're in the early parts of the season, and I think with the first game, you set your stall out. And I think there's also a stat that's just come out that when Salah's not playing or is dropped, his goals dropped from 0.88 to 0.32, which was after the AFCON. So my heart would say not to and play Doak, but I think it'll be a very strong team tomorrow. And then I can see Doak coming on about the 60th minute or the whole of the second half, because with that far ahead, with 2-3-0, 4-0 up. But I think we go strong tomorrow. I think it gives us a bit of momentum, gives the players a bit of football during the week, and gets them ready for the game against West Ham at the weekend. So I do think we may be a bit strong in areas. I think Doak would like to be starting, especially with having his contract. It gives him a bit of a confidence boost. But for me, I see him coming off the bench probably for the whole of the second half, or, as I say, 60 minutes tomorrow. I think Salah will be starting. I think also Szoboszlai will be as well.
I'm tending to agree with you. I think momentum's a critical thing in football, and we've got a really nice structure at the moment where we're going to be playing Thursday, Sunday, as opposed to Tuesday, Saturday, maybe Sunday and stuff like that. So there's some benefit to that. And what about for you, Bigos? Do you think you give Doak a start, maybe play Salah as the number 9 through the middle, or do you just get your primary front three, Salah, Nunes, Diaz, just firing on all cylinders and actually send a message to West Ham going, if you think we're going to be easy, look at us put 6 past these. Watch, it'll be a 1-0. No, won't it? No, I've said that. do you send a message and then shut it down second half?
I'm sort of the opposite opinion. I think we have to start game time managing the players from now. I think Mo has started all games already this season. I know he's a super fit guy, but there are so many games coming up between now and Christmas. It is just ridiculous. So I think now would be the time to give some fresh legs a chance. In saying that, I think Klopp will go with a mixture of experience and youth. It won't be balanced one way or the other. I tend to think it might be mixed, a complete mix. Doak deserves his chance, in my opinion. He's got fresh legs, and I think he'll come on and do a job. And then, of course, if things aren't going well, we can very easily turn it, as you said, Kevin, the 60th minute, make the switch, get Mo on, and change the game, because we all know that Mo, in most cases, will change the game. So I think Doak absolutely deserves it. I can see Szoboszlai getting a rest too, if I'm honest with you. He's been, the way he plays the game, which is so intense and with so much energy and with so much power and drive, I think he needs to be managed as well, because otherwise there could be injuries around the corner for him. No matter how superhuman he might be, you just can't do that to your body. Eventually, it's going to break. So I think Klopp will go along the cautious route in terms of the squad. I think we all know that the Premier League is the prime target for Liverpool this season after last season's very average run. And I think Klopp will have that in the back of his mind throughout the course of this season. They're not going to be an easy side, Lask. I mean, they're not donkeys, if you get my drift. They can play a little bit of football. Yes, they're in the Austrian league, but they're always around the top of that league. They've had good results, relatively good results already this season. They've got a stable.
We'll get on to Lask. We'll get on to Lask. We'll come to that.
Message received, James.
I've got a plan here. It's all planned out.
I just like to wing it, man.
Do you think if this was the Champions League, we wouldn't be talking about resting players?
No.
We'd be saying that our first 11 is strong enough to play twice a week. But now we're in we need to rest them. We need to manage their game time and stuff like that. Is that just because we're not taking, we're anticipating this should be a walk? So we, instead of having our players functioning at 90% constantly because they're having to play 2 games a week, we should be able to have them function at 95% because we can take certain players out and give them that little bit more rest. Is that what Big Oz is trying to explain? That actually it's that small percentage that could put us in a title race that we've got the opportunity to do, and that's kind of how we should be approaching it. Yeah,
I think that everything that Dave said, I absolutely agree with it. If you really watch Man City for the last couple of seasons, they're slow starters. Pep rotates his team a lot during the beginning of the season because he knows when it comes to that final stretch, these guys are going to have a little bit more energy than every other player because they've been rested in particular periods of the season, so they have a bit more energy when it comes to the end. And you can see it with us. It's slightly opposite. We start off strong and fast. And then January, February, we're kind of slowing down a little bit. And in March, we'll kind of pick up again. What if we can do the whole Man City thing where we're still strong in during this start of the period of the season, and then when it hits the January, February, we still have the legs. The players still have the legs to keep running the extra miles that they have to for those couple of games. And I think it would be a good idea if he starts now. With the whole Mo situation, I can see him putting up a fight to start. Because obviously he's Mo Salah, obviously he's going to. I was actually thinking we can play Doak on the left because I feel like Diaz is more.
I'm not another left winger.
No. I know, but I'm saying in terms of this, only because I can see Mo putting up more of a fight than Diaz would. Because I can see Diaz kind of going, you know what, fine, you know what, I know I'm gonna be starting against West Ham. I'm gonna let the young kid play. With Mo though, I'm seeing him saying, you know what, there's a couple more goals I can get and add on to my Liverpool legacy before I leave. I can catch up with this particular type of person. So that's how I'm looking at it. So you'll probably have Mo and Doak on the left, Mo on the right, and you never know, that might work out because he's right-footed, so he can cut in and try, take a couple more shots, and that could something that Klopp can do. But if it was up to me, I would rest Salah, I would rest Szoboszlai, I'll bring on Gravenberch for this game. Him and Elliott will play in there, and I'll have Endo playing as well. And I'll probably put in Verge with Kwanzaa, because Verge has been out for the last two games, so I think it'll be good for him to kind of get back into the team a little bit.
And to answer my own question, I would start Salah because Salah has only got 2 goals so far. Yes, he's got a lot of assists and he's been playing well, but I think once he starts that momentum and it becomes muscle memory and he starts just putting it in the back of the net, you can't stop him once it just starts hammering down. So I would play Doak as well. I would probably play Salah as the 9, and I would play with an out-and-out 9, even potentially a 4-2-4, and have 2 up front with Doak out on wide, Salah, Núñez, Diaz, and just go for them because we should be able to. And then like what we did second half against, completely forgot what we played at the weekend.
Wolves.
We almost played a 4-2-4. I would probably start like that, where they played sort of Szoboszlai and I think his defensive midfielders progressing forward. So that's probably what I would do. Now, one of the things that has been leaked, we talked about keeping everyone at 95% as opposed to 90%, is Kelleher's likely to start. It's been leaked that Kelleher's going to start, Kev. Now, there is no necessarily problem for Alisson and his fitness. I know we often lose for 1 or 2 games in the season. Is this a decision for development? Is this a decision for valuation pushing? Is this a decision because he's earned the right? Why is Kelleher starting over Alisson? Best goalkeeper in the world. You're not going to knock his percentage down, because he's going to be fit enough, because he's probably just going to be watching this game if we do it right. So why start Kelleher?
It's all the above. All the boxes are ticked for me, for what you've said there, James. For me, it keeps his asset. It puts him in the shop window. It puts him. He deserves it. It's his opportunity, and this shouldn't be. This is probably the only time we are able to use squad players in Europe and give them minutes. Can't do that in Champions League, and it's vital that these players who are part of the squad get their minutes, and he deserves his opportunity. He's not going to get. The only way he starts in the Premier League is if there's a suspension or an injury. That's the only way he gets in. There's no other opportunity of coming in for any game at the minute. So he gets his game time. He has 7 games now between now and Christmas of Europa League games and the Carabao games. And if we get through, he'll have 8. I'm quite happy with giving him the opportunity to have that time and that chance to play. I think he deserves it. I think when he's come in, he's done a very good job. And you can't argue of a number 2. I would say he's equivalent to Ramsdale. I think he's other people's number 1, but he's our number 2 because we've got the best keeper in the world. So you're not going to beat him and come out. But I do like his calmness. I think he's very calm. His distribution's second to none. How no one came in for him for the money that was going for other goalkeepers. He deserves his opportunity, and it's he puts himself out there, and I can see him possibly going in next summer. On the back of how well he does in the Europa League. Let's be honest, this Europa League group stage, we should be walking it, and we should be treating it as though we are the actual favourites, and we've got to embrace that because that's what we are. There's no team that's close to us. So, and this group, it shouldn't really be causing us any issues. But with it being the start of the season, the way I see us going strong, cement the first couple of wins, and then let the youngsters take over and see it through to the end of December, and then we go again. I'll be honest, it's a ball ache. If you're asking me, it's a love-hate relationship. It's like the Carabao Cup. Let's get to the semis, and then I'll get interested and I'll be happy. But no, Kelleher starts for me, starts every game, and there's no reason why you need him. Alisson out there, to be honest, I would have kept Adrian as his number 2 out there.
Paul, I've started your question. If you do have any particular questions, please put them in the chat. We will come to them towards the end of the stream. We'll do a bit of a thing. And I know, Paul, you've asked me a direct question, and I will answer that. We do it at sort of the end, added time. And it's a fair question to ask. So we will do that. If you've got any questions, please put them in there. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. It's a fan channel. We're previewing a big game tomorrow, and we want to get you involved as much as we possibly can. Now, Jen makes a really interesting comment here, Big Oz, which is obviously Kelleher is miles ahead of Adrian, but Alisson is miles ahead of Kelleher. What I struggle with Kelleher because I don't see Alisson leaving anytime soon, Big Oz. So is this just a game to increase the value of him to make sure that he's his highest value? Because Alisson could play till he's 40, in my view, same as Buffon. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Kelleher situation?
Well, I agree with mostly what the both of you have said so far. One thing I slightly disagree with is my gut feeling tells me that Kelleher was forced to stay in the summer. I think he probably would have liked to move, but was forced to stay because finding decent goalkeepers is probably the hardest job of all when you're looking at football players. And to add to that, going from Alisson to Adrian is like the biggest damn gap you could ever get, in a million years. It's just too much. You know what I mean? You've got the best keeper in the world, and you've got one of the most nervous keepers in the world who is prone to mistakes regularly. So I believe it was too difficult to let Kelleher go, and he was forced to stay. In saying that, he absolutely deserves his chance. And I think he's good enough to handle situations like that. I mean, I've seen probably all the games he's started for Liverpool, and he's made a few errors on occasion, absolutely true. But for the most part, I think he looks fabulous. And the thing that impresses me the most, which is the same thing that impresses me so much about Alisson, is his general feeling of calm in all situations. And for a goalkeeper, for me, that is the biggest skill of all that is necessary to be a world-class goalkeeper. Obviously, he's not that now, but there is the potential to be that with years and experience and games and all this sort of thing. He's still for a keeper. I mean, he's still a baby for a keeper. You know what I mean? He's what is he? 22? 22? I'm thinking something like that. 22. That would be my best guess. He's 22. I mean, most goalkeepers don't hit their absolute peak till their early 30s, in my opinion. So I think he deserves his chance. You could be right, James, about the valuation issue as well. When you have a player like him and the
24.
24, okay, still an infant. We'll call him an infant then, shall we? He's an infant.
25 next month.
Still an infant in goalkeeping. All right, he's a preteen. All right, is that good enough? Listen, I think the general feeling is that he will probably need to move on next summer because he's never going to get the development he needs at Liverpool. So why not put him in the shop window?
It does feel like a shop window thing, doesn't it, Harmony? Because you've got Pitaluga, who's Brazilian keeper, coming through. I think he's better than Adrian already anyway. So I think Adrian's just there to coach, train, be part of the drill, show them how to be a model professional. Obviously, we've got a few Brazilian. We've got Taffarel, haven't we, as a goalkeeper coach, I believe, still. So it looks like Alisson has picked his successor from the Brazilian national team to bring them through. So this looks like it could just be a shop window for Kelleher. Is that how you see it, or am I just putting 2 and 2 together and getting 7?
No, not at all. Not at all. I can understand exactly why you would think that and why would you come to that assumption. I'm looking at it as, like you said, his value is not going to drop next season. If anything, him playing these games is going to just increase his value, and we can charge a club at least 35 to 30 million for him next season. And I think a club like Brighton,
yeah,
someone like Brighton that could get him Burnley could probably go for him if they're still in the Premier League. Bournemouth can probably go for him if they're still in the Premier League. You know, clubs like that, he can go in there and just kind of pick up the experience and, you know, and get that understanding of being the first class, you know, first team goalkeeper and kind of get that experience. And Liverpool could always put a buyback clause in that contract, just in case he does get to that level of world class, just in case he does get to the point where we believe that he could be that world beater that we think he can be. We can literally buy him back for whatever price that the club decides, you know, to put down for the contract. So whichever way we go, we can still, you know, benefit from it.
Yeah, and is it? I think about like Peter Galaxy. He was obviously a reserve keeper. I think someone like RB Leipzig, he must be getting older now, mid-30s Galaxy, and something like that would be a perfect signing for Leipzig.
Yeah.
Someone like Kelleher could play there for a long time. So I think he's mid-table Premier League ready. But we're going to move on. Kelleher's starting. We believe it to be potentially shop window, but we will see, because obviously he's about to turn 25, so he should be getting game time once you hit about 25, in my opinion. Who starts at DM tomorrow, Kev? Do you go Bajcetic? Do you go and start to bring him through and then bring, you know, you've got another couple of midfielders probably playing a little bit more around him? Do you start Endo and do you bring Badge on halfway through? Do you start Gravenberch in 6 to give him a game against someone he's probably not going to have to defend against? Who are you starting at DM?
Exactly what Harmony said. It'll be Endo.
Endo story.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be honest. It is a very, very strong squad, and you can probably you can make an argument for every single one of them. But I do think that Endo will start. I think the fact that the Australian League's probably played, the Austrian League is played at a similar pace as what the Germany League is. I think Endo will come in and do a near enough perfect job like he did against Germany in the middle of last week. Build his confidence up, let him come in and start. I understand people will have Bajcetic, and I totally agree with it. You can, as I say, you can make an argument for anyone, and I don't disagree with anyone who in the who they pick. But for me, it'll be Endo, and I can see possibly Bajcetic coming on, depending on how the game goes. If we go 5-6-0 up, then I can see a lot of changes being made. But I wouldn't be surprised also if Mac Allister starts. It's mad. I can see us being, as Dave said, there'll be part of this will be a team that's played part of the Wolves team, but also the youngsters. You may see a few of them come in, but for me, it's got to be Endo.
What about for you, Big Oz? Who starts as your DM tomorrow?
Well, if you're asking me who I think will start, or if you're asking me who I would start, both. Okay. I think Endo will start, but I'd like Bajcetic to start. I mean, it's a tough situation, isn't it? We bought Endo. The guy deserves to get a chance, I think. You know what I mean? I really don't think he's as bad as the negative banter that came out as soon as he signed. There was all this negative vibe. I don't think he's that bad. The Bundesliga is not rubbish. He was one of the top-rated players in his position in the Bundesliga. Everybody who talks about him talks extremely highly of him, not just as a player, but a figure within the squad. So I think he's an important player for Liverpool this year. The reason I would like Bajcetic to start is, first of all, he's had a couple of games now on the bench. Sooner or later, he's got to get the rust off and get those legs going in a match competitive game. And secondly, I just love the guy, man. He came to the fore out of nowhere. And I think he played, I don't know, was it 7, 8, 9 games straight? And I think he was man of the match in a couple of them. And this is like an 18-year-old kid, you know what I mean? So I absolutely love this guy. He's got such a big future ahead. If he can stay injury-free, he's going to have an amazing future ahead. And if he starts to get regular time with Liverpool in the first team, I would suspect he'll be in the Spanish national team sometime in the next 24 months.
I agree. What about for you, Harmony? Who are you starting at DM? Because there's part of me in my head that's going, well, actually, Elliot deserves to start. Out of everyone who's played, Elliot deserves to start. And I think when you start putting, two really young midfielders together, it can sometimes be a little bit of a difficult situation to manage in a new environment that we've not played in this type of football. So do you start Elliot and Endo, or do you start Bajcetic and Elliot and then have someone like Endo on there and sort of double pivot it almost, mate? But how are you solving the DM problem? And then we'll start to get to predicted 11s, because I'm starting to see a few of them in the comments.
I would start Endo and Elliot. You're right. Elliot definitely deserves to start a game this season. He's been brilliant every single time he came off the bench. He's brought a life, energy to the squad when we felt like the squad is down and down and out, and he's affected the game really positively. So I believe that he does deserve a start. So I would put him and Gravenberch playing as he'll play as the 8 or the 10, and Gravenberch can play as the 8, and you'll have Endo in there sitting. That's what I would do. But Bajcetic, I would love to see him come on for like the 75th minute, come on and get a couple minutes under his belt. I think he's coming back from a injury that's taken him out for a whole season, and he barely had a preseason with us because he barely played any games. So I think bringing him in like gingerly, slowly will be the best thing for us, instead of trying to rush him back and causing that injury to be even worse, for him to be sitting out for even longer. So I feel like if we take our time with him, then it wouldn't be a problem. I don't really see the rush to try to get him into the team, because we've got a long season. We're only 5 games in. We're about to play our 6th game, and I think we've got a long season that he can come in and affect the game. And for me, I would say for him as well, I feel like it'll be good for his development to take his time, because I can kind of really, really see him being that kind of Busquets for us. Yes, that's a brilliant player, one of the best we've ever seen. But I can kind of see him having that kind of effect in the future for us. So us trying to rush him back and potentially ruining his whole career with these injuries, niggly injuries coming back here again and again.
It's tough, isn't it, when someone's 18, so they're still growing, they're still developing, they're coming back from an injury. You don't want to sort of, if they're in a growth spurt or something like that, if you try and push them too far, you can have so many different issues that come from that. So I kind of get all the problems that you may potentially see in rushing someone back, and part of me also thinks in games like this, and I've nothing against Lask, the 3rd in the Austrian league. They've got a really good start to the season and stuff, but we're getting him up to the wrong speed almost for me, because the speed that he needs to play to be in this Liverpool team is Premier League speed. And yes, you need to ease someone through, but do you ease them in little half an hour at the end of Premier League games? Or do you give them 60 minutes in these slower games? And that's something all the sports scientists will work out. Not for the likes of me. But let's build our 11 against Lask. And we're going to start with, obviously, we believe Kelleher's starting in goal, so we're not going to cover who's that until we're going to give back 4 now. So please, in the comments, give us who your back 4 is going to be to start against Lask. We will start with you, Kev. Who's your back 4?
Gomez, Matip, Van Dijk, Timicus. I don't think you can bring Kwanzaa on. I think he'll come on for Virgil after about an hour. I think Matip doesn't start against West Ham. I think Kanate does. So I think Matip starts alongside Virgil. Timicus isn't going to start ever in the Premier League unless there's an injury or suspension. So this is probably his level. Another one who, like Kelleher, is in the saving his assets and trying to put him on the market and give him a bit of game time based on that. But that's my back 4 based on that.
Paul, I think your back 4 may have too many Gomez's in it.
Well, he's having a good evening, isn't he, Paul?
I agree. I don't like if they're going to try and make Gomez play like Trent again. I don't like
Well,
it. I'd rather
well,
they try
no,
and play Bajcetic stuff.
Yeah, that's it. It'll have to be a flat back four. But I said that last weekend as well. It needed to be a flat back four. It can't be this inverted stuff because it just can't be done. But if it's a flat back four, that's my back four. And I think it gives Virgil the time that he's needed from his suspensions. It gives him enough game time for him. And this is vital, which is what the Europa League can give us, because we're that. People say it's arrogant, but because we are that strong, you can give the players the time they need for the West Ham game. So I'd have Matip, Virgil as the back two, and then change it to Kwanzaa after about 60 minutes. That gives Virgil enough time to get his legs, enough game time for him to be ready for West Ham. Gomez will probably play some part off the bench on Sunday, so it continues his confidence to play in right back. And then Tsimikas, you're just giving him game time because you want to give Robbo the best chance you've got. But that would be my back four for me.
Dave, do you have any changes?
I do. First of all, is it confirmed Trent will not take part? Is that confirmed?
We believe so. We believe that.
Yeah, he wasn't on training today.
Has he?
He hasn't
gone over, has he?
No, he hasn't. And he wasn't on the training video while they were doing the thing. He wasn't there. So
good to know. So I think clearly on the left, I agree with Kev. Tsimikas is the way to go. Robbo gave 300% last weekend. It was phenomenal, and he needs a break. 100%. He also had 2 Scotland games just before that in a row, so I think he definitely needs a rest. I'm going a flat back four if Trent hasn't traveled, so I'm going Van Dijk, who obviously needs to get game time after his suspension. I'm going Konate, unless he hasn't traveled. I mean, I haven't been up to date with it, to be honest, but if Konate is available, I'm going Konate because he had a small injury. He has gone. He's had a small injury. He's just come back. He got, I think it was 45 minutes or slightly less at the weekend. I think he needs a full 90 minutes before he gets into the Premier League this weekend. So I'm going Konate and I'm going Gomez on the right. But again, absolutely not doing the inverted 6, but staying as a right back. He can get forward too, the guy. He's not terrible at it. You know, he's got a good cross on him. So, yeah, I think he'll do a pretty good job over there.
What about you, Harmony? Back four?
I think my one's going to be quite different. Well, I think my centre mids are going to be centre backs are going to be different to you guys. I'm going to have Verge and Kwanzaa in there because I believe Verge is obviously, like Kev said, he needs the minutes after his suspensions, and I believe Kwanzaa because the kid was just electric. He was, he was our best defender in the first half, and he just really stood out. And I believe, he deserves to get another chance in there with a seasoned and experienced Virgil van Dijk, but alongside him to kind of see where he's at with his development. And I'll have Gomez on the right, and I'll have Tsimikas on the left.
What's yours, James?
I would have, and this is where it goes a bit weird because I think Klopp wants to play this inverted right back, and I think we've seen a little bit of Kostas play it as well, haven't we? Kostas has played it a little bit on the left when he's come on in pre-season. Yeah. He played that inverted left. He played almost like an inverted left back. So I do think there's a chance that Gomez actually starts as a solid right back and Kostas plays inverted. But if you're going to play an inverted right back, I would play Bajcetic as the inverted right back because I think he's good enough to play as a defender, as played centre back for a long time. He's obviously mobile enough to play as a midfielder, so he's mobile enough to play as a right back. I think he's good enough to invert because he's a central midfielder as well. And I think he could do the role better than Gomez could do the role because Gomez, for me, is a defender and a centre back that he can fill in at right back. But there is a big variance in his performance level when he's one-on-one with someone on the wing than he is when he's covering space and positioning and defending the back post. And I think that's where we see the flaw in his game more than where we see what his strengths are. Because his strengths are pace and going back and covering space. So I'd probably play Stefan there if you're trying to invert, or Kostas would invert, and it would be those three that are at the back. So slightly different on all of us. Now we're going to go, do you know what? We're going to do a midfield 3, not midfield 2. Even though I talked about a midfield 2, we're going to go with a midfield 3. Who's your midfield three? Big Oz, we're going to start with you for a midfield three now.
So I'm going, because I think it will be the case with Endo and DM. I am going with Elliot on the right, and I am going with Mac Allister as the other midfielder. I think he was tired. I think he was very tired after the international trip, thus the performance that he put in. I think he was actually relieved to come off at the weekend because he had no energy, no legs. But I think he needs to get up to speed again before the weekend. So I can see him both getting a chance and getting some time, but also having a super impact on the match overall.
What's your midfield three, Kev?
Paul Lindo's just put it in the actual
Endo, Gravenberch, Elliot.
Now, it's a toss-up with Gravenberch because I kind of agree with what Dave's just said about Mac Allister, and there's part of me that can't disagree with that. But just to make it interesting, I'll stick with the Endo, Elliot and Gravenberch. I think Elliot has played well when he has come on and deserves at least a start. I think Gravenberch did come on at Wolves, albeit for a couple of minutes, but I do see him getting game time tomorrow. But this is where, do we actually see Mac Allister, Szoboszlai, and Endo play tomorrow? Because and what the reason why I say that is, if you look how strong that squad is going out there. It's all right, very well having them on the bench, but I think Klopp would ideally like to get a few of them having game time early doors and then bringing them off the pitch rather than bringing them on halfway through a match, which I'm against myself. There's an argument for Jones as well. I think Jones has played well. So I'm playing about 10 in midfield at the minute. But if you put me on the spot and holding a gun to me, it will be the Endo, Elliot, Gravenberch for me. I think that'll be exciting. It's young, energetic, and versatile enough. And then you can bring on Mac Allister in the second half if need be and stuff like that. But that'd be my thing anyway.
Harmony, what's your three?
Yes.
Where you think you're going to be different, so I'm
No.
expecting something. Nunes in midfield. Nunes is 6.
I feel, man.
Oh dear.
Just give him the ball and he's let him just run through the whole team. I have the same midfield as Kev. I'll have Endo, Gravenberch, and Elliot in there. Jones is a great shout, but I believe he's had a couple of games already, and Mac Allister is also a great shout. But I also think after playing that game, I think that's probably why he sat next to Klopp, and Klopp was holding him. He was like, "Thank you for taking me off," because honestly, he was
playing at high altitude and everything, wasn't he? It was a real
12,000 feet, wasn't it? And then the 6,000, and then he was on oxygen as well.
Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to get a bit of a rest. He'll probably, if anything, will probably come on the 70th minute and play a couple minutes there, just to kind of get his legs back under him, so he can be ready for that West Ham game. So that's what I'll go for. What about you?
I'm gonna go Szoboszlai, left central midfielder, because he has played there. Elliot, right central midfielder, and Endo. I think Sobo's just going to carry on playing because he's in a rich vein of form, and when someone is controlling the midfield in every game that we play, like for our team, you don't drop them. You win the game, because for me, and this is just where my head's at with how we qualify. We qualify, then we rotate. That is what we do. That's how we approach the Champions League. That is how we should approach this. We shouldn't just, because it's Lask, go script. We put our best foot forward, we qualify, then we rotate when we've got the option to rotate. So yeah, I do Szoboszlai, Elliot, because I do agree. I think Elliot deserves a game. And then you can play Endo. I wouldn't be objected if they play Gravenberch as 6 because we shouldn't really be defending that much. We should be controlling the ball and stuff like that. So, but yeah, probably expect Endo. So that they're my 3. And then we get onto the front 3, and this is where we probably all have a little bit different. So please put it in the chat, put it in the comments. Who is your front 3 to start against Lask? I'm going to start this time with Harmony. Give you the opportunity to start and give me your front 3. Who are the 3 that are starting for you against Lask?
My head is telling me that Doak is going to start on the right, but my heart knows that Salah's going to be playing on the right-hand side. So, unfortunately for him, I'll put Salah on the right. Forget. I'm going to trust that. Hopefully he does. Doak is going to be playing on the right, and Salah will come on in the second half, 70th minute again. Just get a couple minutes, and I'll play Gakpo up front. And why not Kevin left?
No,
Have you seen the size of me? Bloody hell! I make Harry Maguire look like Usain Bolt. I'll play on the left. I'll play Jota. Yeah.
So yours is Doak, Gakpo, Jota.
Gakpo, Jota, and a Doak.
Big Oz.
Okay, first of all, I think Harmony's got a bit of a bromance going on with Mo. Something's happening there. I don't know. He keeps talking every time I hear him. I talk about his heart and Mo. It's
you know what? Because I'm literally
his body's telling me it's Mo.
Yeah.
My mind's telling me no.
Oh dear me. Okay, so let's thrash this out, shall we? I think Doak on the right, in my opinion. For me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Perfect opportunity to get him in there for 60 minutes. I don't think he'll play much more than that, but I think 60 minutes. I am going on the left, Luis Diaz, for the same reason I talked about a few other players in this segment. He had half a game on the weekend. And for me, if I'm going to be honest with you, this whole season going forward, for me, he is Liverpool's most important player. I think he needs to play the most of any player on the pitch if fitness allows it. He is going to have, I believe, the biggest impact for the club in all competitions this season, and possibly all of the Premier League. That's how good he is and how highly I rate him. So I'm going Diaz to pick up some more minutes to be Premier League ready again for the weekend. And I'm going Nunez down the middle. I think if you don't give this guy a chance to release some of that energy that he has inside him, he's going to go back to headbutt Nunez in the near future. So he's played a few games from the bench. He hasn't started all the time. When he's come on, he's been extremely effective. I think it's time to give him a 90 minutes in a somewhat easier game where he can just go wild. So I would love to see him up front, and I think that's what will happen.
Kev?
And on that, I go Salah, Gakpo, Jota.
Which one of those two plays on the left?
I will. I mean, I think it may be Gakpo on the left with Jota through the middle. I think it will be something like that, or it'll probably Gakpo through the middle and get him to learn that, which he didn't do really well against Wolves at the weekend. But I can't see him not dropping Gakpo for this game. I think Jota. I think Nunez comes off the bench for me, but I'm totally with Dave and with anyone who wants Nunez at the start. Why not see him? But I think he'll give him a bit of game time and then unleash him against West Ham. But that would be my three up front.
I want to see, this is the thing for me, I want to see Doak start, but I don't think you take your best China over to Austria and you keep it in a little box.
To show it off.
We're going to bring you out for dessert. No, you're not. There is not a chance you're taking your prize, your prize asset and going, we'll give you 10 minutes at the end, lad. Nah, Salah starts for me, guaranteed. I also think it's the same thing for Nunes. Nunes has got to start, and I'd probably put Diaz there as well. So I would play your Salah, Nunes, Diaz with Szoboszlai as well, which I said in midfield, because I think that is your connected midfield attack. And if you can get that firing almost instinctively, playing with each other instinctively against teams, no one's got a chance. I would play them until 60 and I'd take them all off.
James, you can't argue with it, and I totally get it. And you've seen our predicted 11. There's a few differences in there, but you can't argue against what you have put, and I'm not going to. I've just done it just to make it a bit interesting. That's all. But it's challenging. It's challenging for us to get at 11. Imagine Klopp, who's got these dilemmas. Ideally, he wants two squads, one for Europa and one for the league. And we have the ability to do that because how weak the Europa League is. I'm sorry, I've said it. It is weak, and we have to agree that it is. Until the Champions League teams come in, this should be a relatively walk in the park. But I think at the start of the group stage, you cement you put the foundations in place and instill that mentality. I think the momentum, which is something we haven't had of late, especially even last season, we didn't have this kind of momentum at all. You've got this momentum, you've got team spirit getting built. It's all the little intricacies like that instill into the team and the squad that allows that team to then flourish. And you see those seeds like Doak, likes of Basesic, using that mentality and being around that strong squad. But I can't argue with what anyone said. And everyone has made a vital point and opinion, and even in the chat as well, as to who they want. It'll be intriguing now who we see. Do you know what I mean? But as I said before, I've been struggling all day with when I saw the squad of what team it would be. So it's mad.
No, because you keep the crown jewels on the plane. You'd fly them over to Austria and say, "Don't worry, we've got them." Why are you keeping them on the plane and not putting them on show for the world to see?
You're talking about Salah, I guess, specifically, right? Yeah. I once again, he's played every game, every minute so far this season, as far as I remember. And even the great,
hasn't he for the last 4 years?
He's getting a little bit on the other side of,
Oh, come on, this isn't FIFA.
No. Don't give me that, James. Diane, back off a second, all right, pal? Back off a second, all right? No. Do you want to see Mo going for another 8 years, or do you want to see Mo going for another 4 years? Now is the time to take care.
Mo would go in at the end of the season for me anyway. So
yeah.
I'm going to Torres him out.
That's why you don't care. I love it. No, I always think long term myself. I always think what's for the good of the season. Where do we find the balance? Where should the opportunities be taken to change it up? And I just think this is one of them. And I found it interesting what you said earlier about Mo needs that run, that consistency to find his goal scoring ability again. But I think he's changed. He's not the same Mo we know 3 years ago. He's just not. He's become more of a thoughtful player. He's become more of an assist king, and he backs that up with goals too. I mean, for me, outside of Trent at this given moment in time, he is the best passer of the ball, in my opinion. He has the ability to pick the perfect spot with the perfect weight 80% of the time, and that's a rare gift. So I think Mo has transitioned into that area because he knows himself. The last year and a half, he just hasn't been putting in the Mo goals, which were the stunning left-footed shots from outside the box, which were the dribbling through three players, tricking around everyone, and just nonchalantly putting it in the back of the net. We haven't seen any of those Mo goals. There's been penalties, there's been tap-ins, there's been a lot of different other types of goals, but not that electric Mo that we saw 3 years ago. So I think it's just changed, and I can see him doing like 40 assists this year. Honestly, I can see that happening, but I can only see him scoring around 20 goals, which is great. 15 to 20 goals, which is great. But I think other people will have to pick up the mantle, and his decline is the wrong word, because Mo is not declining; he's just changing. Evolution. He's just changing. So yeah, I think Nunez will score a bundle of goals this year, given the chance. I think Diaz is getting 15 or 20. I honestly think that guy, every time he's close to the box, you just expect the goal to come. So I think they will pick up some of the slack. And Mo, what does he have so far? 5, 6 assists, something ridiculous. Didn't he get 3 at the weekend? Or does the own goal don't count?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's 2. But look, every single ball that he had was perfect. Not perfect. So I can see that role for him. And I think a lot of the time that Mo got the big goal scoring seasons, a lot of the time he spent up front. So I think it's different. I think it's just a completely different Mo.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to score predictions to sort of close us down, and then we've got some questions to go through. Kev, I'll start with you. Score prediction. Give me goal scorers as well if you want, but we don't know who's starting.
I'll go 3-0, Salah.
How many?
I'll say 3-0. 3-0 tomorrow. I don't know who's gonna score. I don't really care as long as it just goes in the back of the net. Yeah, 3-0 tomorrow.
Big Oz, what score are you going with? Jamie used to go for 2-0.
I'm going with 4-0, so that means it'll be 1-0.
Jen with the classic 8-0.
I like it.
Should we go for all 8 for Nunez? I almost guarantee Paul's going with a 5-0. I reckon it'll be a 3-1. I reckon they'll score. We tend to give teams a goal. It wouldn't surprise me if we let them score first, to be honest. That's kind of our how we sort of function at this moment in time. Is you score a goal, then we'll sort out what formation it actually should be, and then we'll beat you. So I'm going 3-1. Carry on with your score prediction. All 8 for Kev. Oh, Kev, you've been on fire. 6-1.
Kev, I have a very quick question. Is Jen your sister?
No.
I was just wondering. Have you heard scratching on the window in the middle of the night?
Nope, none of that at all, Big Dave. Honestly, no, definitely not. No.
She just subscribes to Kev
She
TV.
subscribes to this channel, and she's a legend for doing that. So
absolutely.
It's all
I
good.
joke, I kid.
So I'm going to start, and Kev, I'll give you this question. I mean, Paul asked it to me, but how would you feel if you're one of the fringe players and you can't get a game against Lask? So if you're Klopp in this situation, let's say Kostas comes up to you and says, "Why can't I get a game in this? Why can't you start me?" What would you say to him?
Well, one, you wouldn't be coming over to me because you'll know what I feel about him. So, but he will be starting. There'll be certain fringe players that won't be. The likes of a Basic, probably Doak as well to a certain extent. Jones should be looking at this as should be looking at starting. Elliott to some degree. There'll be a few in there that won't be happy that they're playing, and I get it. But unfortunately, at the start of a group stage, it goes against everything I've said, because I've said all along, just throw the under-23s at it, we'll be laughing. However, and I was so I look at that and think, right, it's okay, sound. But then a bit of me of what Klopp has done and the momentum that this team has got so far and the confidence that it's building, I think this is probably don't get me wrong. We played last twice. So if you're not playing in this one, they'll definitely be playing in the home game. So at the start of this, I wouldn't be too worried about fringe players. I'd be quite excited that they are coming over to me and showing the enthusiasm to play, because that then tells me that they care about this actual team. So, they'll be in my thoughts, but some of them will be getting a few minutes tomorrow for me. And once, as you said quite rightly before, once we have qualified, then you start giving the players the opportunities to play. And you've got more opportunity to do that this year because it is the Europa League. And we, after the first two games, we should be doing that. We shouldn't be taking a strong squad to every away game. But at the start of the season, the way we played, to keep the mentality up, you bring everyone together. And that's a good Klopp philosophy with this team that he's trying to do with this unit and squad. And it builds those kind of leadership and the strong mentality that's going to be required for the whole of the season.
Makes sense. And I agree. I think it's one of those where if you're a squad player, you're a squad player. And if you say, why aren't I playing in this, there will be an obvious answer to it. I think, as in any form of leadership, it's a case of if you're honest with people, they'll understand your reasoning. They might not like it, but if you're honest, at least they can understand it. And I think Klopp's famous for being honest with people
and
about
transparent
the decisions that he's made and why he's making them and what they need to do to make the relevant changes to get in consideration. Harmony, question for you. This one comes from Jen. We've gone at what our starting 11 is, but let's twist this into who would the first couple of changes be? Who would you bring off the bench in this? Who do you want to give minutes from 60 minutes onwards? Who are your key changes to come on at that point?
Besacic, Mac Allister, Mo, Nunes, and Diaz. Those will be my changes for because I haven't got those guys starting, so that's why I've got them. Yeah.
Might as well just leave Mo behind. You could get a flight over. Come on, the last 10 minutes.
Look, I'm looking after it. I'm looking after it. I just don't want to. I just don't want these stupid Lance players to put in a dumb tackle when this guy gets injured, because he doesn't get injured, but he gets injured, and we don't have Mo for like a good 3-4 months. That I don't want that. I'm just saying. I'm just protecting him.
Okay, so we bring on Mo in a Zorb so that he can't get hit. Like it's gladiators.
Oh, dear.
2-0 Bayern, by the way. So yeah.
Well, I mean, there's only one question, and Paul Lindo's asking it for you, Big Oz, which is who would you rather have, Kelleher or Andre Onana, who Sky Sports famously said, "Oh, look at how many passes he's made, despite the fact he's made like 3 errors conceding goals now." Who's the better keeper, Kelleher or Onana?
I would rather have Adrian than Onana, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, this guy's a walking disaster. I mean, when this transfer was made, it was so traumatic for my mind to handle that I think I just removed it. I only remembered it just now when you brought it up. Man United will do what Man United do. Buy crap players, and that's just another perfect example of it. But going back to the question, definitely Kelleher by a million miles.
I think it was it against Nottingham Forest where he was sat on the floor, wasn't he? Before he'd even shot the ball.
Yeah,
I don't get it. There's no part of my fiber that can understand this purchase for United. I mean, and you let go
his pass completion rate. He made more passes than De Gea ever made.
Mm.
You're scraping the barrel when that's your stat, don't you? So I think collectively we've pretty much got a starting 11. There's a couple of changes, a couple of things, but I think Kelleher in goal,
ground
Costas at left back, Verge probably starting centre back. Matip, who was probably the collective for right centre back, and then Gomez was probably the collective for right back. Endo was probably the most consistent for DM. Midfield, Harvey Elliott's the one with the nod, and then I think it's guess. The front three, I would say we have a nowhere near a level of agreement on. Everyone wants to see Doak. I think that's the one thing that we can say for certain. And I think everyone thought Diaz is going to start and get some minutes as well. I think that one was leaking more towards, apart from Kev, who thought Jota or Gakpo was going to start. So we pretty much got the 11. It's just take your pick out of our front six and put them in any combination you like, because any of those that start should be able to bag a few goals against Lask. This is LFC Transfer Room. Thank you very much to Kev, Big Dave, and Harmony. We are back tomorrow for the Lask game. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And hopefully United get absolutely mullered because they're already 2-0 down. Catch you on the next one. Take care.